Why are you guys anywhere?
We're sort of a club.
Yeah, the Losers Club.
You want in?
Yeah, I do.
Hey, we're 7 now. Lucky 7. I want to kill it.
I just want to forget about it.
It's not just us. It's all the other kids, too. Who's gonna be next? It kills kids, damn it!
You killed my brother George, you bastard! Let's see you now.
Maybe it's the water.
The water? Maybe it's the sewer.
Hi, Georgie.
You're not real! You're not real!
Was it Pennywise?
Big white guy, red nose, about 75 feet tall, mouth full of razor-sharp teeth.
You smell that? That's death. Losers fight it. Losers die.
They all flow.
What's up, YouTube? We are back again. My name is Gillis the Kid. I'm here again with my friend Mike, and we just got finished watching Stephen King's It. This movie came out in 1990, and they did make a remake of it. We're gonna go through all the characters like we always do and tell you about the movie.
That's right.
So.
Directed by Tommy Lee Wallace. He directed the original. A couple of movies that we know that he directed in the past. He did Fright Night 2, which we actually did a review a while back. Yep. And he directed Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, which was probably one of the wasted movies that we suggest you don't watch.
One of the worst Halloweens ever.
Probably right. Well, that and also the Rob Zombie versions. Yeah. The two Rob Zombie versions that he made a while back, where I think they're kind of a thumbs down. Yeah. But of course, this was obviously created by the man himself, Stephen King. Who did. I got a list of some of his movies. I don't have to mention all of them, but maybe like famous ones. Obviously, would be Misery. Maximum Overdrive was okay. Graveyard Shift. That was a movie. They really made a movie out of that a while back. It was like a giant sewer rat. Yeah. One of the characters that was actually in that was Brad Dourif, who played, of course, Chucky, of course, from Child's Play. Of course, Pet Sematary. They made two versions of that. There was a new one that came out, I think, this year, I believe I'm saying it right.
Yeah, they remake everything.
Yeah, and there was one from 1989 that had Fred Gwynn. He was one of the actors. He was Herman Munster from the TV show The Munsters.
Right.
Thinner, I saw that. They made that a couple years. Well, it was actually around 1996. Mm-hmm. That co-starred. I think it's Robert John Burke. He was the main guy, the guy who got thinner. Yeah. And also played, believe it or not, he was RoboCop. In part 3. Part 3. Yeah, Peter Weir was 1 and 2. He played RoboCop in part 3. But I mean, there's a list. Like I said, The Green Mile. But like I said, if you know his movies, as we said, you can look at the list too. But we just have suggested ones on here too. So even The Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger, I was surprised I saw that on here too. Right. So I don't know if he created that or not. Of course, The Shining, Sleepwalkers, and Stand By Me. So all right.
He also did Firestarter with a
Drew Barrymore. Right, a young Drew Barrymore. Probably right after she did E.T. or a couple years after that. So,
right. Sometimes they come back, and I'll drop the rest down into the description.
Right. We'll get into that. Get to the opening of the scene. Of course, it starts off with the young girl riding her bicycle, singing the Itsy Bitsy Spider. Right. She's coming home. The mother's telling her to get in the house. Eventually, as she's putting her bicycle away, you hear, first you hear some ghost sounds or kids in the background. Yeah. And then, of course, you see a glimpse of Pennywise for the first time, played by Tim Curry. Of course, one of his famous roles will have to be the Rocky Horror Picture Show. He played, what was the main guy? I forget what his name was in the movie, but I mean, if you've seen it, then we know who we're talking about. And he was also in Home Alone 2. He was the hotel manager, or clerk, hotel manager at the Plaza Hotel in New York, and Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. So she sees a glimpse of Pennywise, laughing and hi, and then, of course, he zooms closer to her, and, eventually you find out she died. You don't see her body, but, because the mother comes out, and as soon as she sees her,
just keep in mind that this movie is made in the 90s, so the special effects wasn't like,
right. We'll get into, as we get to the,
too amazing.
Right, when we get to the remake, we'll talk about some of that, too. And then eventually we'll get to, and of course, now we get to, the character Mike Hanlon, played by actor Tim Reed, who was in some TV shows. He was he was the father in Sister, and also he played I don't know his name in the show, but if you remember the '70s show WKRP, it was like a radio show. He was either a DJ or he worked at the station. That's all I remember. So he was as we say, he played Mike Hanlon. He was the main guy who was supposedly never, which also takes place in Derry, Maine. Don't forget,
right?
Derry, Maine, and he never left the town. He stayed. So he was the one that stayed behind, and he eventually found out, that it's come back. Because what happens is, of course...
Well, he saw the little girl.
Well, that...
Like, he saw the crime scene.
Right, remember...
Like, oh, snap.
Right, yeah. One of the cops, because he was talking to one of the cops, he was trying to help, fill him in on everything, and the one cop was telling me, I told you to stay out of this, Hanlon. But then, and then eventually, of course, he found out it was back when he saw the picture of Georgie behind the tree. So that's when he finally, called, all right, guess it's time to call the gang. So,
now, was Georgie, like, the first killing? I think it was the little girl, wasn't it?
Well, technically, it was the present. Don't forget.
Okay.
It was the present when the little girl got killed, because this is when they were adults.
Right.
So technically, because Georgie was in the past,
right,
which we'll get to. So as we said, he finally he starts to call everybody. So then we go to Stuttering Bill's house. Played by Richard Thomas. Not too familiar with his work. I know he did. I think he did some Broadway. I think a while back. I don't know. As far as movies goes, if he did movies, I'm not too familiar with.
Well, he did like this Christmas movie with the girl who played as Beth.
Beverly.
Beverly.
And then O'Toole. Right. We'll talk about her later too. So he calls Bill first, and he's a writer. He writes books. And eventually he was able to send them to Mike, I guess, because remember at the library later on he found out all the books were displayed.
Right.
So he calls...
Were they like horror books? Or?
I think they were, it looked like they were horror adventure books or something.
Yeah.
So he calls him, and then, of course, they all reflect back when they were kids. So Bill, of course, was first.
Right.
And that's when we found out about Georgie. Because technically Georgie was actually one that saw it first.
Yeah.
He made the boat for Georgie.
Yeah.
And he followed took the boat on the water and all that. And
Bill was sick.
He was right. He couldn't go out. Yeah. Right. So Georgie took the boat. He followed the boat and then went to the sewer. And of course, hi, Georgie.
The classic scene.
The classic. It pops up. Aren't you gonna say hello? I'm not supposed to talk to strangers.
It was a lot of kids going out like by themselves.
Right.
I guess that's how it was in the 60s. But
so he was getting just to cut it short. He was getting they chatted for briefly a few minutes, and as he was getting ready to go, Pennywise had he had his boat. Telling him to come on, Bucko, take it. And then he was telling them, we got cotton candy and rides and all sorts of surprises down here. And then, balloons. That's when he said, because he mentioned the balloons, and the balloons, too. Yeah. And that's when he said, do they float? And that's when, triggered him. Oh, yes. They float, Georgie.
And he stuck his hand in the...
Yeah. And when they float, you float, too. Yeah. And finally, see him pull the arm off, but you see him grab the arm, and, of course, you see the teeth.
Right.
So, then Georgie's dead. And, of course, you get to the funeral scene. Well, when all the kids were there.
Did they ever find Georgie's body, though? Or was it just like or was he missing?
Well, they had the funeral and they had a coffin, so I guess eventually they did. I guess his body was just by the tip of the sewer, so I guess they eventually saw him. Yeah, as we said, Bill didn't see it, but he saw the book. Remember, he was in Georgie's room and he had the book, and it had a picture because it had the picture of Georgie, and then the blood was coming out. Yeah. And that's kind of like when eventually you find out when the parents come in, they weren't able to see what Bill saw with the blood. Right. Because remember, the mother came in, she picked up the book and put it away.
If there was no blood.
There was no blood. It was right because she put the book away, and the father said, "I don't want you coming in this room anymore." And, then they get back to adult
Photo
Bill.
album, something you don't see nowadays.
Right. That's what it was. It was a photo album and it had Georgie in there. That's when the blood came out. So and then they get back to adult Bill. He had packed his bags and he was getting ready to go. The wife almost came with him, but he told her, he says, "Nope, you're staying right. You're staying right here." So yeah. And
well, that's when Mike
yeah.
started. He started like calling everybody.
That's what I said. Yeah, that's what we were saying. Because he called Bill first. Yeah. And then Bill, and like I said, he finally packed up, and then he was gone. And then we get to, Ben. Yeah. Ben Hanscom. So we have Bill Denborough, and then we have Ben Hanscom, played by John Ritter. Of course, and we all know his
Three's Company.
Problem Child 1 and 2. The movie Problem Child 1 and 2. It's a list. The movie Stay Tuned. It was like a movie he did where they were able to go flash himself in the TV. I don't know if you remember that movie or not. It's like from the 90s.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Right, he did that. And also, I don't remember if you remember, he did one of the Child's Play movies. He did the Bride of Chucky. He was the cop. He was a cop.
Yeah.
He had all the
Jennifer, you better get home.
yeah. He got killed. He had all the. I think he had all the nails in his face. Oh god. Yeah. And then of course his recent acting was the TV show 8 Simple Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter. That had him and Katie Seagal, of course, who played Peggy Bundy on Married with Children. Sadly. Of course, John Ritter passed away.
I never seen that show though.
It was good. I gave just to give it a shot. One of the new shows he did. I watched it for a while, and like I said, sadly he passed away. As a matter of fact, on the TV show, they when they wrote him off, they said supposedly he had to get milk or something. I think the storylines he had to get milk, and I think they said he died in a car accident or something. Right. And even in the show, like they had like a well, not a but kind of like a funeral, and so they kind of acknowledged his death in the show. And I stopped watching it because then eventually they both David Spade in. They kind of changed it around a bit. Actor James Garner came in. He played Katie's father in the show. So so sadly for John Ritter, he passed away on the set. But anyway, right. So we get to him. He plays Ben Hanscom, and then eventually he brings his girlfriend or somebody home or whatever. And then eventually he gets the call from Mike, saying, it's come back, will you come? You made a promise.
Ben was the stocky
kid. He was when he was for young Ben, he was a chubby kid, Ben Hanscom. He excuse me, who eventually
well, he was the one that always got chased by
Henry Bowers, yeah.
The greaser teenage gang.
Right, because they all had jackets on. That's pretty much, it seems like that's what it was, if you remember The Outsiders. Yeah, the classroom.
Yeah, they remind me of Grease.
Right.
I remember the leather jackets, like John Travolta. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, in the classroom he was talking, and Henry was giving him a hard time. Then the teacher was going to send him to the principal's office. And what did he say when he got up? "You get fat boy." Yeah, so, and then, so eventually he got outside, and then Henry Bowers grabbed, and they were ready to cut him. Right. Getting ready, then he kicked him in the...
They never showed him, messing with any other kids, except for that,
just pretty much the main kids, yeah. So so he kicked him, he knocked him down, they chased him into the Barrens, and that's where Bill and Eddie is. We'll get to, of course, Eddie. Also, I forgot to mention too for young Bill, by the way, he was played by Jonathan Brandis. We forgot to mention him too. He was, of course, he was in the movie The Neverending Story 2, and he made a few appearances on Full House, if I'm saying it right. So, and sadly he died a while back too. Yeah. So anyway, but so he meets.
He's got a pretty well-known face. So.
Oh yeah. So Ben eventually meets them because he was hiding from Henry Bowers because Bowers saw them, and he was giving them a hard time, and then eventually they became friends. He met Bill and Eddie at the dam. Yeah, dam at the Barrens. I think it was called the Barrens.
He was having an asthma attack.
Right. Yeah, because Bill, he had to watch. Right, because Ben had to watch him. Because Bill went to get to fill the asthma thing up. Yeah. So, and then eventually, he meets his father.
Did he go all the way back to the the drugstore?
I don't know. Because
he came back with a bag with the inhaler in it.
That's the only thing I can think of. That's when he went to, "Hey, I'm back. Well, he said in the stubborn way. So eventually he went back. Then he goes back. Goes back to his house, or I think it's it's a Christian house or something. And then eventually he gets, because him and I think it was his brother or cousin, they had a little fight because he was writing that poem for Beverly. Yeah. Who he met in class. saying, you know, your hair is winter fire, January ambers, or something.
The thing is, Beverly sort of like fell in love with Bill first. Like,
right.
He liked Bill.
Right, later on, they because he introduced him. So Ben goes back to the Barrens or around there, and that's where he meets, he sees an image of his father.
Right.
You know, he was in the Army, I believe, or the Air Force. Yeah, I think it was the Army. And you see him holding a balloon. Ben, that's my home now. That's where Pennywise technically lives. That's my home now, son.
Right.
And as he's talking, you want a balloon, Ben? They float. They all float. Yeah.
It's funny, like how he would see, like his dad would tell him that's his home. Right. Like if that was me, I'm like, really? Like you live there now?
Yeah, like near the sewer.
Because he got killed in Korea, so it's like, how are you there?
Right. So so that's where he sees. So he sees Pennywise for the first time in that little scene. He was laughing at him, and then you see like a skeleton coming out of the water of him saying, "They all float down here, and when you're down here with me, fat boy."
Yeah, the little puppet skeleton.
You float too. And then they get back to John Ritter. He's just like, "Please stop." He's like crying because he was like scared after, I guess when he flashed back to when he was a kid. So John Ritter, so he gets the call. And then next is Beverly, who's played by Annette O'Toole. The only familiar roles I know with her, I think you were telling me about the Christmas thing, right?
Yeah.
Appeared in Superman 3, of course, with Christopher Reeve. Yeah. Probably the least favorite one. I think that was probably because first of all, Gene Hackman wasn't in that one as Lex Luthor. It was Robert Vaughn who played Mr. Webster. Richard Pryor was in it.
Richard Pryor.
So Annette O'Toole, and her name, she was Lana Lang in the show, and Superman 3, and also she was in the TV show Smallville, who played Martha Kent, who was Clark Kent's mother. So she was in that. So she was a like a fashion designer, I guess.
Yeah, sort of like a fashion model, actress.
Right, and she had was that her boyfriend, or is that
that was a boyfriend?
It was a boyfriend who got a little crazy because she got Mike Hanlon supposedly called her at work, but she didn't answer the phone, so they did their little work business, and then they were celebrating at the house, and of course
I did all this for you.
Then eventually Mike calls her up and say, it's come back, Beverly. Right. Remember your promise. It's come back. Right, because she was packing up. I gotta go to me. There's some trouble. Yeah, finally. Well, because she got scared too, because her father, when she was a kid, the father was supposed to beat her up too.
Yeah, the father beat her up.
I think that's why she got scared with her boyfriend. So it's hard.
He took the belt out of the closet. Yeah, he just had a belt ready.
Gotta teach you some manners, Beverly. You get in the bed right now. Yeah, she started throwing
weird, crazy characters in this movie.
Oh yeah, remember she started throwing the cans out, and then finally the one bopped her in the head.
Right.
And she was saying, "If you ever do it, if you ever hit me again or something, I'll kill you. I'll kill you. You know me." So she gets in the cab and she's heading to the airport or whatever, and then we get to her as a young Beverly. She eventually, we meet the father for the first time too. Mm-hmm. That's when Ben wrote the poem,
right?
And he knocks on the door.
Around with boys.
Yeah, and technically it was his fault because he knocked on the door, he ran away. Yeah. And then when she saw the, she looked, got the note, and then when the father, they asked me.
Basically, she had a violent dad.
Right, that's what it was. And you got to be told a lesson here, Beverly. And then she ran away.
Did they ever tell you what happened to her mom? They never really.
I don't think they never acknowledged her. No, they never did. But then eventually, after she runs away from the father, Ben goes over, and then what she said was if you got anything better to do than spy on me or follow me or something. So eventually, she takes her. He takes her down to the Barrens, and that's where she meets Eddie and of course, obviously Bill and Beverly. Yeah, they are
part of the gang,
right? But it's she already knew Bill because remember she's like, "Hi." Yeah. And Bill's like, hi. Yeah. So, and then eventually...
what was it called? The Losers Club?
The Losers Club, yeah. Technically, Henry Bowers was the one that mentioned that. Yeah. And that's when Richie comes, Richie and Stan, and the whole gang gets together.
Played by...
Richie was played by Seth Green.
Seth Green. Austin Powers.
Austin Powers. He made a guest appearance on the Wonder Years. Yeah. I think he made a lot of TV appearances. So they all get together, and then eventually, of course, Bevy goes probably doesn't want to go back home, but she lives there, so she has to go home. Goes in the bathroom, and that's when you hear down, in the sink. In the sink, you
see
hear
all the blood come up.
You hear the kids first saying, "Beverly, help us! A clown ball is down here!" Right? You see the balloon. Yeah, it's like a balloon pop up. It was like a red balloon. whoosh, and it blew up and it was
That
blood.
reminded me of remember like Nightmare on Elm Street, where the souls, like the kids, are like, "Help me!"
Oh yeah,
Come on.
yeah, Freddy. Yeah, you had the children. Yeah, the souls of my children.
Yeah.
So the blood comes out, and she runs out and grabs her dad. He's like, "What in the name of heaven?"
Yeah.
And brings her in the bathroom, and he puts his hands on the sink. What you think he saw?
Right.
And then eventually found out it was the same thing with the photo album. He can't see. He couldn't see the blood or
Nobody
anything.
saw it but them.
And he told her, I had to say, explain herself. So she told her there was a spider on the sink or something or whatever. And he told her to get to bed.
Yeah, once she realized that he didn't see any of that, she was like, "Oh, it must have been a spider."
And then you hear, and that's when you hear Pennywise's voice say, "Hello to your friends, Beverly. You'll die if you try to fight us."
She had to bring all of them over to her house just to make sure
that was
she
later.
wasn't going.
Right, that was later on. Yeah, you'll die if you try to fight us, Beverly. You'll die if you try. You die if you try. I kept repeating it, and it zooms back to her as an adult. So that's how she saw. Well, she didn't see Pennywise. She heard Pennywise technically. Right. And then next we go to Eddie, right? Yeah, I believe it's Eddie's turn. Eddie's an adult. The only thing
Eddie, where are you going?
Yeah, I gotta go back.
Mom didn't want to.
Right, I gotta go back to Derry. Yeah. And bear in mind, I am not familiar with adult Eddie. I don't know his history.
Well, he had like a limousine business. So.
I'm talking about the real actor who played him, though.
Oh, okay.
But right, he did because he had the show. Right, because remember when he got in the car, he was telling the driver, he said, "We need guys for certain things or whatever."
It looked like he lived in a pretty big house too.
Right.
You see the size of that?
It was
Would you want to go back to that
dirty
hole?
Would you want to go back to that dirty little town? Jeez. So so he leaves, and then what's it? Is that when they were in a movie theater? Was that the scene? Was that his?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's when they're watching a movie. I Was a Teenage Werewolf.
Right.
Played by Michael Landon. Of course, we all know him from Little House on the Prairie, Highway to Heaven. So, right. So they're watching the movie. That's when Eddie kicked the popcorn on Henry Powers and his buddies, and then Richie dropped the soda. He poured the Coke on them. Yeah. So they all ran away. Jeez. Yeah.
That was the only time they actually was messing with them.
Right. Well, it wasn't his fault. He accidentally he only did it by mistake. Yeah. He did, So he went home, and apparently the mother didn't like when he was hanging with them.
Right.
Remember, she told him, "I don't want you to see them anymore. I don't want you to hang with them." And that's when they get to the. That's what she told him. Remember, she said, "You do no shower. I don't want you taking a shower." And then the coach made him take the shower.
Right.
So he gets ready to take the shower, and that's when the showers, all the shower tops were moving around. Yeah. They're all getting closer. He's like, sweet. And that's when you hear Pennywise down the little drain. The drain, yeah. This is a little inconvenient. Excuse me while I make an adjustment. Yeah, he comes out. So here I am, Wheezy.
It was his mother, actually putting all that in his head, you're sick, you can't take showers with the other boys, you have asthma. And the old guy kept telling him it's just water.
It's just water. The guy at the drugstore, right? So you see Pennywise, he was calling him, here I am, Wheezy. You're gonna like it down here. And it's telling him, no good to run, girly boy. Come back anytime. Bring your friends. And you just see his teeth.
He always made it he always had to show him how sharp his teeth.
Yeah, he comes. Jeez. And then he gets on the train and he's just kind of scared as he got on the train.
Yeah, he always did that. He's always holding himself.
Right, because he was that's what he was. He was scared. He never had a girl. He never had a girlfriend or nothing. He tells that to everybody later on. So yeah,
he was basically a virgin, really.
Right.
He never.
I mean, technically it was his mother. Actually, you think of it. Technically, it was his mother's fault that told him not to take the shower. If he would have taken the shower, maybe with the kids in the in the gym, maybe he may have not met Pennywise.
Right.
So all right. So then Eddie, So then Eddie's on his way. He's on his way there. That's the funny thing is, he never actually saw the phone call. He was already getting ready to go.
Yeah. Well, Pennywise always appeared to them when they were alone.
Right.
And scared anyway.
Right, but what I'm saying was Mike. They never had a scene where Mike actually called him though.
Right.
He was already packed. Because remember, he was already packing his stuff.
Yep.
So then we get to.
So who's next?
Then we get to Richie, adult Richie, played by Harry Anderson. The only role I can think of for now, he was the judge on the TV show Night Court, which was on for a few seasons. I don't know how many, but. Yeah, I don't know too many of his other movies.
Me neither.
Yeah, so
I don't think I've ever watched Night Court before.
all right, it was a popular show in I think around it was like in the mid '80s.
Yeah.
Had John Larroquette. He was the attorney, as we said. He was the narrator in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the one with Jessica Biel, and then the prequel. So Richie's doing it, and he's a comedian. He's like a stand-up comedian. You find he's a goofball. So so as everybody's gathered, he gets on his, they're all celebrating, all together in his dressing room.
He's like the comedian,
right? Yeah, he's a comedian or a ball buster or something. Yeah. Mike's trying to call him because remember he was like, I can't hear you, everybody, because everybody, all his family, and everybody was in the locker room.
When you say my name's Richie and doing voices is my game or something like that?
When he was a kid, Richie told was my name and doing voices is my game.
Voices is my name.
It was my game. So yeah, so Mike calls him. Same thing. I can't hear. It's like Mike Hanlon from Derry. You remember me? Yeah, I remember you, Pally. Right. So he was telling his manager. I guess it was his manager. Saying, you gotta get somebody else. He said Leno. I guess he meant J Lo because he said get Leno. I wonder if he meant Jay Leno because he said, I think that's what he said. He said get Leno to take my spot. Right. He said I made a promise. So that's when remember when he had the image of him as a kid. He went in the tub. He threw up in the tub. Yeah. So then and then we flashed to Richie as a kid
because Pennywise didn't want them to get back together. Right. Like he started to appear with them as adults.
Right. And the first thing that happened when he flashed back to when it was Richie's turn as a kid, Bill was he was reading he was reading one of his future stories. Yeah. Because remember he was reading it to everybody. Right. So, and then of course we get to the first Bill was about to tell everybody about Georgie. Remember he said the other night in Georgie's room and the cop came and he was telling me come together as you are, stay together. And then they get to the cafeteria scene.
To stutter again too.
Right. Then they get to the cafeteria scene. That's where Richie and Stan bump into Henry. Yeah. And I remember his tongue's like, "All right, twerp, who did it? It was you, wasn't it? And tell me, you might live through this, Four Eyes. The Paramount Theater. Who did it?" And he grabbed the mashed potatoes. Yeah. He was putting on his lens, and he threw the tray on, and they were chasing him. And that's when they all tripped over. They all fell down. So I mean, he's like, we were all laughing at. So, but I mean, I guess
principal told him to go down into the
right. Well, remember he turned around, he knocked his tray on. He was like, oh. Yeah, go down to Mr. Marsh. I guess he meant Beverly's father. Because remember he said Mr. Marsh. Yeah, right. Because that was Beverly, right? Beverly Marsh, if I'm saying it right. Yeah, Beverly Marsh. Yeah, because her dad was the janitor. The janitor at school, right? Go down to Mr. Marsh's office or janitor room, get some stuff. Yeah, you went down there, Mr. Marsh. We had an accident in the cafeteria. You just see you see him crawling, walking around. But then eventually, as he comes out, he's got you see fur, the fur, and then it's an image of the teenage werewolf. Right. Remember, because that's just like, no, this isn't happening or something. Yeah, and as he runs, he grabs.
There's a werewolf in the basement.
Yeah, he grabs help, and as he's about to run, and then you see Pennywise. Beep beep, Richie, come back anytime. I'll show you how to flow down here. They all flow. And again, the teeth. And he runs.
Show the teeth again.
Right, yeah. And he comes up, help! In the basement! There's a werewolf! Just like you are. And that's when he was in bed. He's just like laying on the pillow, and then it fades to him as an adult, and he's in the same position. Richie. Right. Poor Richie. Yeah, that was his dad's school.
Didn't Stan have that appearance with him in the house? Remember he was in the he was looking for birds or something like that.
That was later on, yeah. So that's Richie's flashback. Yeah. And then we go back to Mike. Right. We go back to Mike and it's his turn. He found a picture of them when they all took pictures of them when they were kids. So we get to him. He starts off with him as a kid in the classroom. He was just reading a little history.
It's like show and tell, basically.
Right. He had the history. He was like reading a history of stuff that happened in the past. Yeah. And apparently that I don't know if the teacher, she just seemed like she wasn't interested. Because remember, she's like, "Thank you, Ben, for that." Heart fart.
Well, he was telling a story of how bad Derry was back then, like how all the people disappeared and stuff like that. Yeah, and I think, but Henry said like, "We don't have time for this crap or something." And she's like, "Henry Bowers, how many times are you gonna stay with me every year in the classroom?" So eventually, remember he was leaving. Well, he got left back like a couple of years.
Yeah. And then that's when then Mike was leaving, and that's when Henry Bowers grabbed him,
Yeah.
He was like making fun. He was like, me and my daddy.
Yeah.
And that's when he took the.
And with the knife.
Well, then
he always had that knife.
Yeah, but then he had the firecracker.
Oh, the cherry bomb.
The cherry bomb. He was gonna put it. What do you say? The rocket in your pocket.
Right.
As he was about to, then the guy saw him. Was like, "Hey, you! Stop that right now!" He grabbed the book and then Chase began, "Get him!"
Yeah.
And he had 5. You know, then there was a couple other guys. It was 5 of them. So they were chasing him, and you know, and then the kids were.
He never actually cut anybody.
No, he didn't. No. And then, eventually the other kids were back, you know, at their hangout, and they were talking. They were finally talking about Pennywise.
Help me!
Right, but they were. I know. But then the kids, before he came over, they were finally starting to mention Pennywise.
Yeah.
Remember, they kept saying, "At least I'm not the only one who saw it." You know, and then Eddie, could it be just a clown and a guy in a clown? So just
Or Beth, it's not a clown.
Yeah, some kind of monster. Bill said, "Some kind of monster. It's right here in Derry."
Yeah.
So yeah, then Chase. Yeah, as you said, Chase is on. He climbed over the fence, and then finally, remember they heard him rebut. Remember, you just hear in the background, "I'm gonna bury you."
Yeah.
And then that's Bill. Rocks, ammo. So yeah,
When he hit Beth, that's when.
Right. Well, first, yeah, as we keep forgetting that. First, when Mike finally ran over, help me, please, help me. That's when Henry comes over. You're dead. Yeah, I got bones to pick with all of you, but I'm gonna let that slide today because I won him. And then Bill, you're through, Bowers. Yeah. You stuttering freak. And that's when they started. Right. That's when they started to throw rocks. Right. Well, Bill did a good job too. I think he hit him like in the face. Like He's like, oh, you're gonna get a leg. Yeah, you're gonna get a surprise. You're gonna get such a surprise. they're like, oh yeah, finally. Yeah, then finally, and Henry threw the one on Beverly. Was it her arm or something?
Yeah, he hit her on the arm.
Ow! Yeah, and then just like triggered, like he like tackled the Henry, and then the other guys were trying to get him, and they're like hitting him with the rocks. Let's get out of here, Henry. So they backed away, and that's when.
That's when he showed them the.
First Bill tells Henry, "Get out. What if I won't? I think the 6 of us can take you apart." 7. Yeah, he was like no tough. It was like 7. Yeah. I'll kill you all. I'll kill you, Henry. I'll kill you all, Henry Bowers. Jeez. So we're sort of a club. Yeah, the losers club. You want in? Yeah. And then then they get to the scene where they're reading the book, and you see all the. That's when you find out. That's when we're reading more about Pennywise, because you find out it's supposed to be every 30 years that he supposedly shows up, and that's when the book
like some type of evil creature demon.
Right, that he pops up every 30 years and kills. And that's when the book. Yeah, the book started flipping back and forth. Yeah. Well, first don't forget Stan. Remember, Stan thought Stan the Man Urine, I believe. And Richie's last name, of course, was Tozier. He said, I remember Stan kept saying, because he didn't see it yet, and he kept saying, "No, it's just guys, it's all in your mind. You just, you're all imagining this stuff." Because remember, he didn't believe, he thought they were all crazy at first. But yeah, the book started flopping back and forth. Then you see it was like a parade or something. Yeah. Remember, they were all walking around. And that's when you see Pennywise he's in the book first. Yeah. Yeah, and then he finally comes over. He gets near the tip of the book. Remember, he's like, "I'll kill you all. Yeah. I'll drive you crazy. I'm your worst dream come true." And he puts his hand out the book. He puts his hand out the book, and then Stan was the one who actually threw it through the book. He's like, no. Yes, Stan, you saw it.
Well, yeah, that's what he had to do. Like, he had to make you believe. Otherwise, he would, he couldn't. Right. He couldn't skip.
And then they were trying to convince Stan, Stan, you saw it. And then finally he's like, yes, I saw it. And then also when Mike took the picture of the group, remember? Mm-hmm. And that's when Ben, that was the other classic line. That's when Ben said, we're lucky 7 now. Lucky 7. So yeah, I took the group picture. And I think that was it for Mike. Well, the scene with Mike, because they read the book, he threw the book away. Mm-hmm.
And they only showed him like working in a library, really.
Well, that was his job, right? That was his job as an adult. He worked in a library. That's what it was. He was a librarian. Yeah. So they get back to Mike, the adult Mike, and you see the footprints. Remember those footprints on the floor? Yeah. And you see the balloon just pop, and you just hear Pennywise in the background like, So, all right. So then that was it. So that's it for Mike's turn, and then finally we get to Stan the Man Urine, adult Stan, played by, I know we talked about him in the past, Richard Mazur. He played. He was in the Thing 1982, which we talked about a while ago. He was in the movie My Girl. He was in Encino Man. He was in License to Drive. He's done a few movies. So they're watching Perfect Strangers, the TV show.
Yeah. And he was planning on having like a family. Right,
because remember his wife. Remember she said. I forget. Someone in her family. When are we gonna make a grandmom?
She said, "Yeah, I think."
When are we gonna make a grandmom? Right, is that what she said? My mom?
Said,
yeah. When are we going to make it? Yeah, that's right, because she said, when are we going to make a grandmom? That's right. That's when Richard's like, Stan, he's like, the woman's on candy. I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, they're getting ready to make out or something. He gets the call, Stan, it's Mike Hanlon. Yeah. Who'd you say? Mike Hanlon. Mike Hanlon.
He took it pretty hard.
Well, first he was happy. Remember, he's like, Mike, I'll be damned. Remember, because he was all happy at first. Then when he finally told him, it's back. That's when he got scared. He's like, "What? It's back!" And that's when Stan did one of his trademarks. He put the he was
holding his ear.
He was holding his ear, and he kept saying, "He said, you remember your problems." He's like, "I can't." He says, "Like, I can't guarantee." He's like, "I can't promise you." At first, he says, "I don't know if I can do it or not." He was like, he was all scared, and then finally, Mike just said, I hope you come." So that's when he gets off the phone. He's like,
"Right,
wrong number. I think I'll take a bath."
Yeah.
So he gets up. He runs the water
upstairs.
Right, and again, as he puts his his arm in his ear, and then they go back to Stan because it started with Stan as a kid talking about some stuff or whatever. And
that's when they showed the part of him like going to that house.
Well, yeah. Well, that was in the second half. The part 2 of that comes up, but they get ready to fight it. Remember, because that's when they were zooming the slingshots. Yeah. Remember they were trying to hit the cans. They all stunk except who was the perfect shot? Beverly. Yeah. Beverly. Yeah. And then Ben said 10 out of 10. No, it's not easy for me to shot. But then Richie had.
I mean, they still could have got slingshots though. Like, why have one? Like, you never know. You might still hit him.
They still might hit him. And then Richie had the. Was he the one? He was the one that had the silver, right? The two metal. Silver things?
It was just like silver balls.
Silver balls.
That was like, I guess, melted into like a little ball.
Right. So that's when they're getting ready to go down, and that's when they had the acid. Eddie had the acid.
It's battery acid.
Battery acid. That they were all taking turns. Remember, they were all using it. Yeah. Yeah. It's like. Richie. Remember when Richie took it? He's like, yuck, tastes like battery acid.
Yeah, I don't know why they did.
They all did. Yeah, it's like they were all taking turns. So they went down, and Henry. And don't forget, and you see Henry and the guys were on the side. Yeah. And that's when Henry said, "Guess what? They're not coming out.
They're not
coming back out." So they get down there, and they tried.
Really planning on killing.
The way it looks, I mean. Well, eventually they grabbed.
He always pulled the knife out, like never really did anything.
Right. He was like, it's like he was threatening them. So Henry sends his one buddy. Remember, he tells him, you follow them. You follow them down the. You follow them somewhere. Yeah. And that's when you first see the. Not technically not Pennywise, but the real what Pennywise. Would look like for real kind of. You see the image. The
like
bright
light.
Really. Yeah, the bright light. Yeah, and Bowers' buddy. He's just standing there watching it. It's getting closer and closer.
Remember, it hypnotized you.
Well, it didn't hypnotize him yet though, because he was like just watching it though. Because remember when it finally came out. Remember he was and then it finally got closer.
Yeah, he's up in the air, and then he just.
Well, that was Belch. That was Belch. We'll get to that. Yeah, because remember, eventually, Stan. Bowers grabbed Stan. Remember?
Right.
Yeah, remember, and that's when he says, "Remember, before you die, I want you to think about every rock you threw and everything you said. You think about that before you die." Yeah, because he took the knife out. Remember that? Yeah, again, he took the knife out. Well, he says, "You're the first. I guess you're the first, kid." He starts laughing. So the kids, they're on their own. Well, they knew Stan was missing, so they had to go find him. And then that's when Stan was supposedly about to die from Henry, and that's when the flash, the light came again, and when it exploded. Well, Belch saw it first, because remember Belch was like Henry, because he was like trying to warn him. Yeah. So then finally the pipe exploded, and that's when Belch was he was going up in the air. It was and then he got sucked inside the pipe hole or manhole, whatever it was, and you just see him supposedly get eaten. I guess because you see he like sounds and stuff. Like, so was
I guess you heard him like crunching
on him, eating. Yeah, Belch, are you in there? Yeah, he's in the house. Belch, and then the pipe, the light came back on, and that's when Stan apparently, Stan was, he was scared to death, but then he got up and ran. But Bowers,
see him looking.
Bowers, he was just he didn't move. I guess he was kind of a trance because then his hair turned white. His memory turned. He's like,
so he never died. Like he just...
Henry Bowers, no, you get part 2. So Stan's running for his life. It's coming. They all ducked, and that's when the light came because they all got on the ground, and you see the light. The light zooms over them.
Yeah.
And they get out. They hold hands, and then eventually,
it looked like a spaceship or something.
There was something, right? Because they were holding hands, and that's when Bill said, we have to, we have to team up or resist. I forget, it was something. And then they're all holding hands, and that's when all of a sudden you hear Stanley boy. Yeah, because it was Pennywise was holding his hand, picked him up, he grabbed him in the corner, and he said, "Let go, be afraid. You all taste better when you're afraid."
Yeah.
That's
all that's all he wanted to do.
I remember, what was it? Bill? Somebody said, "Kill it, Bev," and Penny's like, "Kill." He starts laughing. I am the eater of the world and of children. And you are next. And then the teeth again. He's about to bite Stan. And then, of course, Eddie, "This is better." I said, "You slime ball or bastard."
You see, like, his face start melting off.
Yeah. He's pulled. Yeah, it's like coming off. Yeah, his skin's like all stretched out. And then Beverly takes the slingshot. Dumps off. Yeah, hits him in the top of the head, and you see the bright light coming out. Yeah. And then he flips over, and he's about to go into another. I guess it was like another sewer.
Special effects.
Right. He's about to go into another sewer. I guess he goes in there. They hold his hand.
Yeah, it was like
Pennywise's hand. Yeah. Right. They hold his hand, and then eventually turned in like something like a spider.
Weird claw type.
Spider claw. Yeah, it goes down. So you just hear in the background. Oh yeah. We have to go down there. It's dead. We gotta make sure. We gotta go. We gotta kill it. Because Bill wanted to, he wanted to go down there. He wanted to make sure, but they were telling him, "No, we're not going back down there. We're not going back down there." And then, of course, they go back outside.
I don't think they would have even known what to really do. Really,
right?
As kids,
right? And then they go back outside.
They probably would have all gotten killed if they would have went down there.
Right. And they go back outside, and then of course that's when Bill said, "Swear to me. Swear to me if it comes back, we'll all come down and get it."
They make the pact.
That's when because that's what Mike said with the promise when they were calling everybody.
If it comes back,
we kill it. Yeah. So they were all swearing, but don't forget, Stan didn't say nothing the first because they were all swearing except Stan. But then finally he came in and swear, and that's when he had the group hug, the friendship hug or whatever it was. And then we get back to adult Stan, the wife going upstairs.
Yeah.
I'm coming up to scrub your back and your chest. Yeah, she goes in. It's like all quiet. Yeah. And Mary's like, "Stan?"
He had all his clothes folded too.
That's the thing. Yeah, that's what I'm saying too. The clothes were folded, and then first you just see a side. You just see and then that's when you finally see the blood coming out of his hand.
Right.
And you see the razor. Mm-hmm. And then and then finally she drops her beer and all that. And finally they zoom. Yeah, you see Stan laying on the corner. Stan dead. And then you see apparently he was able to, with his blood, put it on the.
Yeah, who did that?
I guess he did it himself before he died. Yeah, and he fell back. So you see him there, and then all of a sudden, and of course, his wife.
Just wrote it in his blood.
And then that was the end of part 1, I guess you can say.
Well, I remember seeing that on VHS, that's where it ended. That's what I remember.
Because it was because it's technically it's a mini series. That's what it's considered. So that's how part 1 ends, and then we get back to the present.
Right.
Bill arrives. Bill was the first one to arrive in the town. He goes to the cemetery, and that's where he looks to he finds Georgie's grave.
Yeah.
And then you see Pennywise. Remember, he was digging up holes because it's supposed to be for everybody.
What was his name? George Elmer Denborough.
Yeah, George Elmer Denver. Yeah, I think that's it. Right. That's when you see Pennywise digging up the holes because it's supposed to be for everybody.
Right.
Thanks, remember? That's when take a pic. Yeah. Billy boy.
Except the one
on the very end. That's already taken.
Yeah.
and Georgie's trying to, or excuse me, Bill. Bill was saying, we fought you before, and we'll get you. We'll beat you again.
To scare me.
Right. And then he goes to the library, and then he meets Mike, and he sees all his books were displayed.
Yeah.
So they meet up, get together. Eventually, so we'll live together for a while. They were chit chatting for a little bit. The bicycle, and then eventually we get to Richie.
What was the bike called? Like
Silver. Yeah, because remember,
Silver.
Oh way, right? Because remember, Mike kept the bike, which was surprising. Yeah, and then Bill fixed it up, and they were riding.
Well, he actually bought it again.
Oh, is that what he said? Okay.
Yeah, remember he went to the the pawn shop.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah, he had to buy it again, and he said all that's wrong with it is like a flat tire, but I fixed it.
Oh, okay. And then eventually Richie.
It's all right.
Well, that's impressions. But then Richie, don't forget, then you get to Richie. You see him arriving for the first time back in Derry. Remember, he saw the Paramount Theater. Remember, because it was they closed it up or something. Yeah. And then remember,
rest in peace.
Yeah, then it said you're right. Then he saw the rest in peace. Richie Tozier gets to the library. He looks for Mike. Mike, of course, left. And then he sees Pennywise. Yeah. Well, first he was checking out the library, and Richie. Remember, that's a little young for you, huh, Richie? And you see the balloons.
Richie didn't want the rest of them to see that. He was scared.
Right.
Like
I didn't hear that. And then you see the balloon. Yeah, it's all the balloons. Take a balloon, Richie. Take them all. And you see the balloons, right, pop them with the blood. And the blood popped. He had the blood on his face, and he was telling the librarian, "Tell Mike Hanlon, I'll see him tonight. Tell him I'll see him tonight. Get out, Richie. You're too old to stop me. Get out, get out." And he had a few jokes, of course. Excuse me, sir. Yeah, it was all that. So
he even said, he was like, we can't let him come back.
Right.
I'm 70.
So Richie, then Richie takes off, runs for his life.
Right.
Eventually, Eddie gets into town. He goes to the drugstore. He sees he sees
give him the
right. He sees the flashback of it. Well, he goes back to when he was a kid one more time, and you see him getting right. And then presently, Mr. Keene. The guy's name was Mr. Keene. Yeah, I remember he was in the back. He's talking. You got a cigar, Sonny? Because he was like old. Because he was older. He was like an older man. And that's when he grabbed Eddie. Remember, he's like, "Get out, Eddie." Or beware, little Eddie. Yeah. Beware.
Yeah, he was just trying to scare each of them so they would just go back.
Go back instead of trying to fight it later on, right? So he's like, "Mr. Keene, what are you doing, Mr. Keene?"
Yeah, he knew all of them together would eventually overpower him.
Beverly, and then you get to Beverly. She goes back to her house.
Yeah.
Goes back. She's the old lady.
Right.
Makes the. Come on,
for those of you
who've
seen the new movie, this scene is different.
Right. We'll talk. Right. We'll mention the changes too, of course. So yeah, she makes the tea for her. Yeah. She goes back. She goes in the bathroom. She like turns the sink on, everything. Make sure everything is working. Washes her face and all. And then they had the tea. If you remember when she looked in the tea, it was like red. It was like so she throws the tea on the floor.
It's always blood, like
right.
everything. Yeah.
And then you see the old lady cleaning it up, and then you look up. Her face was like it was like makeup. But technically it was the father, because remember it was like Beverly. He was talking like the. It
was like a zombie.
It was like a zombie of her father,
Get
right?
Back here.
Get back here!
You're not real.
Yeah, you're not real, right? Yeah, she runs away, and then you see Pennywise just laughing at the door. He shuts the door. Remember, the truck comes by and was right away. But then you see the house the way I think originally was. It was condemned. Remember, it was all boarded up. It was all boarded up. Yeah. So she got her scare. Yeah. And then don't forget John Ritter. Mm-hmm. He was in a taxi cab, and he actually went back down he went towards the tip of the where Pennywise lives, because he went down there for a few minutes. Well, he saw the kids. Remember, he saw the kid being chased by those bullies,
right.
And of course he saw an image of when he was a kid, and it was Henry Bowers and the guys chasing him, so he helps him out.
Good thing you had the handkerchief.
Yeah, good thing you had the hanky when you did. I'm gonna be okay now. Hang in there, champ. You're gonna be all right. And then once again, boom!
It's like a new group of kids.
Right, that's what we were saying. That's what I was joking. Like it was like, it's like maybe it was Henry Bauer, one of his grandkids or nephews or something. They took over, and then he's once again, boom, Hanscom.
Oh, and
remember, first he saw his father again.
Yeah.
But it was a skeleton. But this time it was a skeleton with the balloon.
Right.
And remember, he was talking like we had to find it, get you down here or something like that.
Right.
Because remember, it says
Pennywise at the same time he was talking to Henry.
Well, that was later on, right? That's when he was at Juniper Hills. Yeah. But I'm saying with Ben though, he saw Pennywise one more time. Well, not Ben, Pennywise. Well, it was a skeleton of his father.
Right. Talking
like Pennywise. We gotta get you. We had the. Something, I forget what he said. To get you down here or something. So finally he drives away. But he does see Pennywise on the road. Remember, he just like raised him.
I like it down here.
Yeah, he was waving to him. Yeah, the balloon. Remember, because in the car. Remember, we drove past him. You just see him waving.
Yeah.
And then he turned around. Turn back now. Yeah. So he took off right away. And then I think, I guess then we get to the restaurant scene. That's where they finally all get together, reunite, have their laughs. The Chinese restaurant. They all have their laughs. Well, Eddie gets a little scared when he first got there because he was like, I don't know what you guys are talking about and all that. And then he saw the image, flashback when he was a kid, and he remembered when he sprayed Pennywise.
Yeah.
He put some acid in his mouth as well. But then eventually they calm down. Then they all start, then they all start getting together and they all start laughing. Yap it up and everything because they know at the time they didn't know Stan was dead at the time.
Right.
So, and then of course they get to the.
It's funny, like they never tried to call him again.
Well, they did later though. The library. When they went back to the library, then they had the fortune cookies. Yeah. That's when they had like. It was like something scary in the cookies.
Eyeball.
The eyeball.
Chicken.
The dead chicken. Yeah, it's like a half dead chicken.
It's like a claw coming out.
The claw. Eddie had the cricket or something. Yeah, it's like they all had. It's like everybody had something. And of course the Chinese lady. Yeah. Is everything all right? Is everything okay? Yeah. Well, we'll find out. Our friend just had a little asthma attack. He's doing better now. And then finally, Richie's like. Well, not Richie. Bill, let's get the hell out of here. And they finally all start running. Yeah, then then you go to Juniper Hills because remember Mike said. Remember, it was like Beverly thought, she's like, please tell me somebody ran Henry over. Yeah. And he was like, no, you'll find him up at Juniper Hills, and then which they finally get to. You see Henry just sitting there, old man Henry. It's just, and then you see the moon, and that's when you hear Henry Bowers. Remember, you helped me. Remember, you chased those little brats down in the sewer. You got to go back and finish the job. And that's when he went, Henry, kill them. Oh, kill them. Oh,
slid from under the bed.
Oh, kill them. Oh, that was later. So then they get to the library. Right, and then that's when they finally called Stan. They tried to call Stan. And finally, Richie was telling a few jokes, but then finally, Mike called him. Yeah. And that's when he got the phone. He went, Stan's dead. He cut his wrist in the bathtub right after I phoned him. Yeah. And that's when they needed a drink. Remember? That's when they opened up the fridge and the balloons came out. Yeah. And then you see like Stan's head.
It was like
it was his head.
Like head.
It was like a severed head, and that's when he was talking. Oh, sorry I'm late, guys. And he was like making fun of everybody. Billy boy. And Richie, nice nose job. Nobody noticed. Yeah. Hey, Stack. I see you're putting on a little weight. What do you say?
What's your sexuality or something? What do you say?
To Eddie, yeah. How's your sex life? What's your sex life? And then, speaking of, I forget, and he sees something about Bev's dad. Yeah, speaking of dads, Bev, I hear yours. And then he looked at Mike. He's like, "Well, Mike, you got us all together again." Well, because you never left the town, so I hear. Yeah, he said because you're so lame or something. Yeah. I finally made it, guys, and his voice started turning into Pennywise. Yeah, I finally made it down here, guys. Yeah, and you know what? It's true what they say. It's true what they say. They all float, and you will too. They all float.
Who watches ahead?
They all float. When Mike finally shut the door, remember?
I would have opened it and be like,
yeah.
Like, who watches ahead that long?
And remember, that's when the library, the glass and the windows started breaking, and all the water came down. And what they did was they all held hands, remember? And they all just closed. They closed their eyes and they put their head, And then finally it stopped. And Richie was like, I'll listen to whatever you guys have to say, but can we do it somewhere else?
All they had to do was meditate.
That's what they did.
And they just...
That's what they did. Because remember, they all put their heads back and they closed their eyes, and it stopped. And that's when Richie said, can we do it? We'll talk. I'll talk whatever you guys want to talk about. Can we do it somewhere else? Right. Please. So finally they leave. Well, Bill had the typewriter, remember? It was that message that Bill had to use when he was a kid. I can't remember what it said. Stone says he sees the ghosts. It's hard to remember.
Something ghost with toast or something.
Yeah, like he thrusts and still insists he sees the ghost. Yeah, he had the.
It helped him
stutter for the stutter.
Like pronounce his words better.
Right, his stutter, and then then we get back to Henry, and that's Henry Bowers at the Juniper Hills, and that's when you hear Henry down here, Henry. Yeah, and you see supposed to be Belch coming out from under the bed, and he was telling me, the same thing. What do you want? The same thing you want. I want to pay him back. Yeah. And what about Coons? Coons is the guy in charge. He's the worst. I hate him. and he gives him the knife. Remember?
Yeah.
He says, "Lead the way, Henry."
Oh, remember the guy? He's like, "What's going on in there?"
You got a problem? Yeah, he goes, "Yeah, you got a problem in there, Henry? Anything I can help you with?" That's a good boy.
He probably like beat on him.
The way it seems like he was always ready.
He was like ready to fight.
So finally, because then remember, Bill said, "Lead the way, Henry. I need you, Henry." Yeah, so they get out, they walk, and then remember he finally comes out. Remember, he's like, "All right, dog meat." Yeah. He comes, "I'm gonna shoot you." I forget what he says. Yeah, and then you see the feet of Pennywise. Right, he zooms up. Right, and then it's a dog.
What was up with that?
Yeah, he falls on the ground.
It was like Pennywise body and like
it was a dog's
head
face.
of a rock wall.
Yeah, and he falls down. It just fades out.
I had no idea what that was.
I know, yeah. And they pretty much with the gang, they just chit chatted for a while. They were just they were reflecting on Stan, and then Bill was the one that talked about when Stan when he was the bird collector, and he found out he was collecting all the birds, and that's when he heard Pennywise's voice, Stan, so he went in the house, and then you see Pennywise.
It was like a mummy.
It was like a mummy Pennywise coming down the steps. And then the door was shut. He couldn't get out. Yeah. And then he named what he did was he put his arm up to his ear, took the book up like a shield, right? Because he named all the birds or he collected or something, right? And then finally he was able to get out.
That's all he had to do was meditate.
And the door opened up. He escaped. So. And that was pretty much they pretty much mentioned about Stan.
These kids they hear voices and they just go into these dark places.
Right. Well, Stan's an idiot because he's hearing a guy.
If I heard a voice coming from like a dark house, I'm not gonna.
Well, just that, especially if it's somebody you don't know. I mean, and he's still going to I'm here. Hello. Yeah. Yeah, because that's what led into. Remember when Stan ran to Bill? Remember what? Go, go, and they Bill he just took off the
story about him on the bike.
Right. So they that's pretty much it. They chit chat for a little bit. Then finally, Bill's wife, she gets ready to leave. She finally she wanted to find him finally.
Right.
So she eventually gets to the gas station, and the gas attendant talks to her for a few minutes, and finally that's when he said, "Don't you want your balloon, Miss Denver?"
Yeah.
And then Pennywise,
his eyes started glowing, and he hypnotized her.
Right. Don't you want it? Don't you want it? Don't you want it? Yeah, so like I said, they pretty much chit chat at the hotel for a while. Then finally, they were getting ready to go to bed. Well, I don't know if they were getting ready to turn in, but they went upstairs.
Right.
Yeah, that's when Ben went in the room. Beverly came in. And that's when she recited the poem. "Your hair is winter fire."
Yeah.
He kissed him, hugged him, and that's when Ben saw Beverly and Marilyn. As you zoom down, you see the clown outfit. Yeah. "Kiss me, fat boy." He runs out of the room. And then, of course, Mike goes in the room, and who shows up? Henry Bowers. Yeah. That's when they had a little fight in the hotel room, in the room. He got stabbed around his stomach.
And he grabbed him, and then
Right. Well, eventually, after Ben, runs for his life from Pennywise, and then he comes out. Right. Then they finally open the door. They came in, and they grabbed. Yeah, I think it was Mike actually. Mike grabbed. I think real fast. Mike grabbed the knife, and he finally stabbed Henry in the stomach or something. And his final words were, "Belch."
Belch.
Like that was his final words.
What happened to the other guy? Like he never came back as a zombie or anything.
Yeah, apparently, Belch. Well, he only Pennywise just disguised himself as Belch.
Yeah.
So he looked like he was on the verge of dying. So they get in the car. They rush to the hospital.
Yeah.
And then once again, when they were outside, remember Ben and Beverly were outside chit-chatting.
I don't know if it's you or Pennywise.
Right, she said, because then she recited the poem, "Your hair is winter," she said again. That's what Ben said. "Why did you say that? Why did you say that to me? You wrote that, didn't you? Your hair is winter fire?" And, is that you in there? Is that you or is that the clown? I don't know what's going on. It's me. Yeah. It's me. So, that's when they started, they were kissing for a few minutes, and then Eddie comes out, and they were getting ready, and that's when Richie told him, "Mike's going to be okay." Bill goes in the room, and that's when Mike told him, look in the closet, and he had the silver.
The silver.
And that's when Mike says, I got him. He said I'm pretty sure it was asleep.
Yeah.
Because remember, Bill said,
he went back there.
That's what he said. It's like, "You went back down there?" Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was asleep. Pretty sure.
He told him he was having thoughts of
killing himself.
So he didn't care.
Right, because he even said too, if I went down there, if he was awake, he said he was gonna kill himself. So so they had the chat, and then they go back to the hotel, and they were.
That's when they came up with the plan.
First they covered up Henry Bowers' body, because remember they said let's turn on the TV, do not disturb sign, because at first then Eddie decided he didn't want to go, because remember he's like, I'm a little over monster hunting, Bill.
Yeah.
So they were old for this. Right. So let's just get out of the room, turn the TV on, put do not disturb sign out, and let's leave. Now remember that's when they were getting ready to leave. Yeah. And then as Bill was getting ready, then he heard the Beethoven song, dun, 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 because when he was a kid, remember?
Well, what was it, Richie? Because he saw on the TV that the girl got mutilated again.
The news, right?
So that's when he was like, "Man, like."
Well, I'm saying, yeah, but then when they were getting relieved, remember Bill saw the image of when they were when he was a kid,
I don't know piano lessons. He's like, I gotta stay because I don't know what's real and what's not.
Right, exactly. Because when he came out, remember, where's everybody going? Or Richie, where are you going? Going to the airport. I'm going too. And then that's when Bill said, I can't do this. He says like, I can't leave. I gotta stay here because he says I don't know if the more I stay here I might go insane or something. And then
that's when they
got together,
figured out that they had to finally kill it.
Right.
Because remember what Richie said, like if this thing comes back when I'm 70,
right? That's when they go inside. But when they first got, they hugged each other again, and then they were getting ready to go down there. But that's when Richie he said, this is a mistake. I don't want to, we can't, you smell that? It's death. It's not for Stan. It's not for Henry Bowers. You guys are crazy. You guys are crazy to go back down there. And said, well, if you don't want to come, then don't come with us. No, that's when Richie says. He says, I still say we should have got a machine gun.
Yeah.
So they
see, that's the thing. Why didn't? I mean, they're adults now, and they couldn't get like guns.
Well, Richie, that's what Richie said. He said, bullets. Right? That's what he said. I still say we should have got a machine gun. All right. So the crew goes down, minus Mike, of course, because Mike's in the hospital. So they go down, and eventually you see you see Pennywise. You see like the little fade of the ghost of him. Remember?
Yeah.
Remember telling him, "Go while you still can."
Yeah.
You only see what your little mind has. Yeah, like all the others. I forget what he exactly said. Then he just fades away laughing. He just fades away. And then eventually,
didn't he have the boat too? Like he had the boat with him.
Well, yeah, eventually, right. And that's when he found out about Audra too.
Yeah.
Because that's right, because he saw the purse, remember?
Yeah.
He's looking, he's like, it can't be. And he runs away, he's like, Audra!
She was like in a cocoon or something.
Right, she was like tied, yeah, she was tied up.
Actually, it was a couple other people, like the corpses, like in the cocoons.
Well, first, yeah, that's when first Richie said that we can't fight the thing, fight it first. He was saying that, and that's when Richie told, not Richie, Bill told Richie, saying it comes back every 30 years, it feeds. And so they went into the room, right, where all the bodies were.
Well, they figured out it had to take a form of something,
right?
Like,
and that's when they were getting ready. Bill was getting ready to cut down Audra, and then finally that's when you see the giant spider or something. Yeah.
So basically, it was a spider.
I guess it was like a giant. Yeah, it was like a giant spider, tarantula, or something.
Like when he chewed on you, or like when he fed on you, it was like a web, right? Like it was like a cocoon.
Right.
He looked like a half crab, half spider.
Right. Yeah. And then Beverly, the Miss Slingshot tried to, she was using them both times, but she was just aiming on his head, and it wasn't working. And then when then eventually the monster, whatever, again, we don't know what it was, stands up, and that's when you see the light. Remember Bill, and that's when Bill got closer, and he was reciting the thing, still insists he sees the ghost, and then he got into that trance. Remember, then Ben came over, was like, Bill, what do you do? Then he gets, then he's in, then Richie, right, then Richie came over, guys, what do you, and then he's in a trance, and then Beverly, she had to find
she hit him, and it bounced off.
That's what we're saying, it didn't work, right, it didn't work the first time, so she went to try to find him, and then Eddie's like, Ben, where are you going?
Yeah.
Oh, what am I going to do? And then he flashback when he sprayed Pennywise. I believe in Santa Claus. I believe in the Easter Bunny. Yeah, I don't believe in you. This is battery acid. He starts spraying, and then with the claws, picks up Eddie. He zooms up, and he just drops him. I guess he probably squished around his stomach, his ribs or something.
I think it crushed his organ or something.
Dropped down, and finally Beverly finds the silver things, and finally zooms in and goes and went inside inside the light, and then the light just explodes, like exploded or something.
His belly was like the soft spot underneath.
It like exploded inside. At first, then the spider crawls away, and they finally, Bill and them finally wake up, and that's when they saw Eddie talking, and don't forget too, Eddie, he lied to them. Remember, he lied to them earlier on and said he had a girlfriend, but then he told them the truth that he didn't.
Yeah, he was really a virgin.
Right, they found out. Yeah, Richie said, so you're saying you're a virgin?
I can't help you there, buddy.
I can help you there, buddy. Right, so they finally, then Eddie just, I forget what he said. No, he said, Richie said, hang in there, Spaghetti Man or something.
Eddie Spaghetti.
Right, and he said, I told you, I don't like being called Spaghetti. Or Spaghetti Man, and then, of course, he just, when he dies, he just drops, just drops dead right in front of them. Yeah. That's when they got up, and then that's when Richie said, "If it comes back when I'm 70, we'll be ready." And then he was finally ready, and then Bill said, "Let's finish this thing once and for all." And they finally,
they beat the shit out of him.
They pushed, because the spider, it was crawling. It was crawling slow, obviously, because the belly, made him a little weaker, I guess. Right? They pushed him down. They just, they're like, hitting it. They're like,
what did they rip out though?
It had to be his heart, because they were because it looked like first they were just pulling pieces. They were pulling pieces of his body out or something. Yeah. Then finally they reached in. Yeah, and then they finally lifted. It had to be his heart. Because remember they like zoomed it up in the air. Right. And then finally, because then you see the spider monster just finally died. It just finally passed out.
Shell, maybe.
Right. It finally passed out, and they just
Well, you know what I was thinking. Remember how on Independence Day?
It's been a while since I've seen that movie.
Well, Independence Day, there was the aliens, but inside there was like a little alien. So it was like, that's what I was thinking about.
Okay. So the heart, they just throw the heart on the ground. They they go outside. You see Richie like carrying Eddie. Right. And then Mike was finishing his little book too, because he was writing. Remember, he was writing everything that happened. And he said, "This is I finished my book, I finished my novel and all that." And then he just mentions what everybody did in the future. Ben and Beverly got married. Yeah, they got married, and supposedly I think they said she was pregnant, and Richie was still doing his acting, doing his comedian stuff. And then of course Bill and Audra, they were getting ready to leave. But before they got in the taxi, remember that's when Bill. Wait a minute. Yeah, and he had the bike. And he was telling her, this bike, saved Stan's life. Right, so they started going down the street, and that's when Bill was saying, beat it, Audra, beat it. And then, eventually it worked. Finally, she woke up. Yeah, she's like, Bill, where are we? And,
she like snapped out of her
coma
or whatever.
They're like, where are we? Well, she said, where are we? And then finally, they just finally hugged and kissed. And it was in the middle of the street, because remember, everybody kept getting out of the car, like, what's going on here? What is this? You just see people beeping their horns and stuff. Fades away, and of course you hear a little clip of Pennywise laughing. So
I always thought it ended like a little weird.
Right. I mean, I assume that, but I assumed he's dead. I don't know.
I've never read the book, so
me neither. But that's how the original ended, and then and then you fast forward to 2017. Is that the first one came out? Pretty much about the same. A little different, because in part one they were kids the whole movie. Yeah, you didn't see the adults in part one, and it was a little different. Like Bill had. I think he had like a film strip. Yeah. And because on that one, right, that's when they all saw Pennywise on the film strip in that one. I mean, some scenes were similar. So that was
Mike
part
didn't
one.
go into the hospital.
Well, that was in part two. Right. And
like they actually fought Pennywise all together.
And then don't forget also in part one with Georgie, this time you actually see him pull the arm off this time. The other one you didn't see as a point, but this one he pulls the arm.
Yeah, the new movies are gory.
Right, because he was crawling. Because remember, he started crawling, and then he fell, and Pennywise pulled him back in the sewer. Yeah. So
don't remember the little girl, like he bit her face.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I'll just blow it right off.
And who played Pennywise? John Scazzard, is that his name? We said his name. And who was the director again?
Andy.
Andy. Yeah, it was a weird last name. Eddie or something. Yeah. Well, if you've seen the movie, you'll know what we're talking about.
Everything down into the description.
Right. And this time, don't forget, his hideout was a house.
Yeah, it was
because the first one it was like in the barrens of a sewer or something. But yeah, it was actually a house, and they went down. Yeah, and I think there was weren't they able to go downstairs or something? It was like a little sewer. It was like a trap door.
Yeah, it was like a cave, and then they
right. So in there, that's where Pennywise was at. So and pretty much the same thing. Like I said, they were all, it was some funny scenes. This one they made some funny scenes. Richie was a little more crazy, goofy in this one. Young Richie, that is.
Bill Hader, so
Well, that's in part 2. I'm talking about part 1 though. When they were kids, the kid who played Richie was funny, and pretty much the same thing at the end. With Bill, it said the same thing. Swear comes back, and then part 2, Bill Hader, who played Richie as an adult. He was, of course, on Saturday Night Live. He was in the movie Superbad, McLovin. And in that one, they had some flashbacks too of when they were kids too. Yeah. So they changed a bit. And in this one, as we were saying with Mike, this time at the end they fought, and he went this time, whereas last time he was in the hospital. Right. And they had more. As we said, there was some more gore, some gory scenes in this one.
It was gory.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of CGI,
Right, like remember when the scene where Beverly went to the house and the old lady was there? Well, this time you see it was like a monster of the old lady, or the bathroom, and the bathroom scene when she was a kid. Remember when the blood came out? This time the blood splashed all over the whole bathroom was red. It was like a red bathroom.
It looked like the room from, what do you call it? Freddy. Remember when the girl got slashed and all the blood is just like...
True. Yeah. Or even with Glenn, too. When Glenn got pulled under the bed and the blood splashed all over the walls.
Yeah, it was like exaggerated.
Right. Yeah, the scene, and then the one scene I remember too, but I think it was the one you just talked about. The car. It was at the carnival, or it was a game or something. When the little girl saw Pennywise. Remember, she said,
the bleachers.
Right. Count.
I'll just blow it right off.
Yeah, I'll count to 3. Right. 1, 2. You're supposed. No, but she said, remember, like, you're supposed to say 3, and she said, you see, she like zooms real fast. Yeah, you see like his teeth were, because the graphics, his teeth, opens his mouth was like wire. Yeah. And remember too, when he opens his mouth, remember you saw the light in his mouth? Yeah. And pretty much the same thing towards the end. They fight at the end. And also too, Mike found more history about Pennywise. It was like some stuff from like the way back. It was like way back. Yeah, it was like in the ancient days or something.
But didn't he come from like another world or something? I don't know. Did I get that correct? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Right.
Some people were saying like he was from another world.
Right. If you've seen the new It Chapter 2 movie, then, hopefully you know what we're talking about.
They made it seem like he was an alien or something. Remember?
Right. Yeah. It was different.
That came to Earth hundreds of years ago.
Right. Yeah, it's like Mike had all the info. He found all the info and everything.
Hollywood's always changed.
Right. Right. You see, I remember it's pretty much the same thing at the end of kind of like the original. You see the spider. Only this time, when you see the spider of him, you see you see Pennywise's face. His face. It was like his face on the spider's body. So he was like talking as he was crawling. And then they found out the weakness, which I thought, spoiler, don't forget, because we're kind of spoiling it. But hey, that's what. I remember they pretty much just made fun of him. Yeah. Remember they were saying you're just a clown, and as because he was getting smaller as they were making fun of him.
He just shriveled up until
he shriveled up, right? And then kind of like in the first one, they were able to They pulled his heart out. Same thing as he got smaller, they pulled the heart out, and
he survived off of fear,
right?
And he took the form of a clown to entice kids to,
Right. And if I'm saying it right, the first one, he comes back every 30 years. I think in this one, it was 27 years, if I remember this time.
It was a little bit shorter.
Right. And the same thing, Eddie gets, he got killed in this one. And Stan, at the beginning of the opening, Stan killed himself again. He cut his wrist. Because you see pretty much the same thing. The group, the adults, they get ready to go. He calls everybody. So pretty much the same storyline. A few changes, like we said, because Mike
they had to change it a little bit.
Right, this time Mike was with them when they fought at this time. So, but it was good. It was enjoyable. As we said in our last review that we were going to see it, and we did. And so I would recommend it. I would recommend Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 if you haven't seen it yet. I would check it out. And the original. I mean, obviously the graphics aren't. A little different compared to the original.
The graphics aren't the best.
Right. No, this one. Right.
I like the original better.
Like the original better? All right. You're entitled. Did you enjoy Chapter 2?
I did.
There you go. Yeah. If you guys, if you're a fan of, like we always say this, if you're a fan of horror and gore and blood, definitely Chapters 1 and 2 together. Just give you a heads up though, they're kind of longer. Like this one, this was over 3 hours, and this, even Part 2 was over 2.5 hours. So that was almost 3 hours as well. So,
imagine watching like Part 1 and 2.
Oh yeah, if you watch it
like
together,
back to back.
right? Or watch them all together. Watch this because this was a total of 3 hours and 7 minutes.
Right.
So you figure, yeah, part one that was over 2 hours. Right.
It's like watching a Star Wars trilogy or something.
Right. It was all day. Chapter 1 came out in 2017, and and Chapter 2 came out 2 years later. If I'm saying it right. So and that pretty much covers Stephen King's It.
Yeah.
Both versions.
Stephen King, he's the king of horror.
He is. He's done a lot, and he'll keep tradition going. I'm sure with remakes in the future.
We're gonna do some more Stephen King movies, though.
Well, there's plenty out there. Stephen King, the Halloweens, Nightmare on Elm Streets, and as always, hey, if you got a request, if you leave it in the comments below, help us out. We'll look into it like we always do. So, but both either way, this version and the newer versions, I think are both good. And I would definitely check them out. I would recommend them to you horror fans out there. So all right.
Yeah, that pretty much covers it. I'll drop everything else down into the description. So.
Like we always do. Yeah. Absolutely. And by the way, just one more thing. For you Eagles fans, go Eagles! In case you know, I wore my Eagles cap today. Yeah. Always, we're recording this on the night after they won against Green Bay, and to me, they will always be Super Bowl champions. Yeah. So, but yeah, other than that, I think we got it.
There you have it, Stephen King's It, 1990. Definitely check it out if you're a horror fan. But that's all I got. I want to thank everybody for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. And as always, we will catch you on the next one. Peace.